All right, awesome. We are now moving on to plant cells. So plant cells are very much alike and very much different than animal cells. And you'll see some of these sort of common structures that look familiar and some things that look very, very different. And so what we're going to do now, we'll grab our magnifying glass as we did before. And I'm going to very carefully sort of move around the edges here. And I'm hoping that we find a question mark. Oh, there's one. Good. So we can start with the cell wall. Now you remember the animal cell had a cell membrane. Plant cells have a cell wall. And the cell wall is made mostly of a molecule called cellulose. And that provides support and rigidity, so it makes it kind of, it gives it sort of shape to the plant cell. Okay, so when your leaves are trying to find their way to maximize the sun's rays, after you just water maybe a house plant, you'll notice that it might have gone from sort of looking shriveled to looking much more alive. You've provided water. Well, it's the actual cellulose that sort of makes everything sort of stand upright in your house plants. All right, let's do a little, let's see, I want to look at these things here. You should recognize these, mitochondria. Remember we said this is where cellular respiration happens. The production of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Remember ATP is energy as far as we're concerned. These are the power centers of the cell. Their inner membrane is made of folds called cristae. This should look very familiar to you. Plants have them too. Plants have mitochondria just like animal cells. These look odd. What are these things? Ah, okay. The rough endoplasmic reticulum. So you remember the rough ER, the RER in animal cells was responsible for helping to make proteins, transportation, and so rough ER mostly transports proteins. Okay, so smooth ER transports other things like lipids and things like that. Rough ER transports proteins. Okay. What else can we identify here? Let's see, what are these green things? Ah, chloroplast. So you've heard the word a couple of times now. Now you get to find out what it is. The chloroplast is a really important organelle in plants because that's where photosynthesis happens. Okay, photo means light, synthesis means to make, and so we're making something from light, and basically we're making energy. The chloroplast itself is a container for a chemical called chlorophyll. All right, and the chlorophyll is actually responsible for the photosynthesis phase photosynthesis responsibilities within the organelle known as a chloroplast. The chloroplasts have a double outer membrane and a complex internal structure, which includes stacks of membranes called thylakoids. All right, thylakoids. And stacks of thylakoids are called grana. So there's a lot going on in a chloroplast. I mean, we just hit you with a bunch of multi-syllabic words here. So chlorophyll, double outer membrane, stacks of membranes called thylakoids, okay, and stacks of thylakoids are called grana. So the chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. That's the key point in all of this, but you probably want to pause this, take some notes on these other terms as well. Thylakoids and grana. All right, what else can we find? Let's see, I'm going to look here, this purpley thing. Smooth endoplasmic reticulums, no ribosomes, but these transport non-protein materials like lipids and carbohydrates, your macromolecules that you guys probably learned about. Purple ball is the nucleus, and so as you know, DNA and chromosomes are here, controls cell activities and the genetics. So this is the building blocks, this is the blueprint, the playbook, if you will, of that particular plant. And this monster is the vacuole, okay? A membrane-bound sac that stores water and dissolved materials, provides cells with turgor pressure, so leaves remain fully exposed to sunlight. Vacuoles in plants are large, while animals, they are small. So vacuoles in both animals and plant cells However, vacuoles are much bigger in plant cells because basically they regulate sort of the amount of water inside a plant cell, and so the more water, the more rigid the leaf or the plant cell, and so that's what helps leaves sort of extend all the way out so they can capture as much sunlight as possible. I think I got all. Oh no, I didn't. I didn't get the Golgi apparatus. So stack of vesicles that package materials that will either stay in a cell or be secreted. We talked about the Golgi apparatus earlier. And I think that might be it. I tell you, if I missed something, like I don't know. If I missed something, we can always come back to it. But I think I got all the good stuff. Cytosol. All right. Made mostly of water. It's full of proteins that control cell metabolism, so the processing of energy. The organelles are suspended in the cytosol, and cytoplasm refers to the organelles and the cytosol together. So you may hear these terms used interchangeably. It depends on how picky your teacher might be. But cytoplasm is both cytosol, just the liquidy stuff, and the organelles in the cytosol. All right, I think that's it for plant cells. Page 2. Which organelle or organelles can only be found in plant cells? Well, there might be more than one answer. Let's see. So mitochondria, we saw that in both. Chloroplasts are definitely only in plant cells. Nucleus, we saw nucleus in both plant and animal cells, and we saw endoplasmic reticulum. So the answer is chloroplast here. Next question, which organelle surrounds all of the others? This is a cool question. I think this one's neat. So cytoplasm, kind of, sort of, but not completely. Remember, cytoplasm is cytosol plus organelles. Nucleus, no, nucleus is sort of surrounded by everything else. Cell wall, that sounds pretty good. And vacuole, no, that's just another organelle. So cell wall surrounds all of the others. It's kind of like the skin in humans. The skin kind of encompasses everything inside of you. Okay, page 4. Chlorophyll is a green pigment that absorbs sunlight. Most of a cell's chlorophyll can be found inside the nucleus, mitochondria, cytoplasm, or chloroplast. So let's take another look at this plant cell, and I'm just going to kind of jump on over to this guy. So the chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis, and it contains that word chlorophyll. Okay, so that's where you find chlorophyll in a chloroplast. So that means that if chloroplasts are only in plant cells, that means only plant cells have chlorophyll. Does that make sense? You won't find chlorophyll in an animal cell because the animal cells do not have chloroplasts. All right, so we got an answer for that one. Page 5. Plants inherit characteristics from their parents just as animals do. What cell organelle contains the hereditary information? Remember when I said earlier that this organelle has the DNA? The DNA is your playbook. All right, it's your blueprint. It's everything that makes you. And the DNA in a plant is everything that all the instructions on how to make that plant, tree, whatever it is. Okay, so that DNA, if you remember, is found in the nucleus, and it doesn't leave the nucleus, it stays there. Page 6, which pair of plant organelles, plant cell organelles, deals with processing energy? Okay, so try to think about that. We've gone over that quite a bit actually. Which one of these is responsible for helping to create energy? Well, smooth ER and rough ER, remember, those were responsible for transportation, transporting rough ER, transported proteins, smooth ER, lipids, and carbohydrates. The Golgi apparatus was, remember we talked about the Golgi apparatus in terms of it being sort of your Amazon packaging line. It's where everything gets packed up before it's sent out of the cell. Chloroplast and mitochondria. Chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. Photosynthesis is making energy from light, making energy from sunlight. All right, so that one's definitely involved with energy processing. And the mitochondria, the nickname for it was powerhouse of the cell because it is involved with processing energy. Okay, so this is definitely the answer. We'll just double check. It's always a good idea just to rule out everything. Nucleolus and ribosomes. Remember, the ribosomes come from the nucleolus. So ribosomes are made in the nucleolus and then sent out of the nucleus. So nothing to do with energy, everything to do with protein. So energy is chloroplasts and mitochondria. Last question of this activity: in which part of the plant would you likely find cells that have no chloroplasts? Well, that's a really cool question. We haven't talked about that, so that's one we're going to have to noodle on a little bit. Let's think about that. So what's a plant made of? Well, let's think about a tree. So a tree has a trunk, it's got branches, has leaves. We know that leaves are green. We know that chlorophyll is green, and chloroplasts are where chlorophyll lives. But the trunk didn't start off as a thick trunk. It started off as actually a stem, and the stem itself actually did have chloroplasts. The only part of the tree that isn't exposed to light is probably the roots. Okay, so they're not exposed to light, and therefore they don't have chloroplasts. So that's kind of a neat little trivia question. What part of a plant doesn't have chloroplasts? Well, it's the roots. All right, that's the last question in this activity. Hope this made sense to you. Hopefully you were able to take some notes and sort of find the things that are common between animal and plant cells and things that are different. That's really the key to this lesson, is to identify the organelles within the cell, what they do that are specific to animal cells, specific to plant cells, and then organelles that are common in both. Okay? Hope you enjoyed this lesson. For more video lessons like this, check out TI's YouTube channel. It's all one word, TI Calculators. And if you type in TI Calculators into the YouTube search, you'll find our YouTube channel, and then you'll find all kinds of really cool math and science lessons that are ready to go. So that's it for this, and see you next time. Have a good day.